What's up, party people? Today I have a guide for you on how to complete Dekaron's Mazokie Trial Party Dungeon. This dungeon not only has really good experience, but also offers you the items that you need to craft your Helion armor set, as well as some of the items that you need to make the Helion weapons. So make sure to watch this video so that you can take advantage of this excellent dungeon. Make sure to like the video, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so that you don't miss any upcoming content. Let's get this party started. As I mentioned before, this dungeon is located in the Space of Pilgrimage. To get there, you can take any of the teleporters from Ardeka, hit the teleport button, and go to the Space of Pilgrimage. Very simple. Alternatively, you can use holy water to teleport here as well. So once you're in, you're going to want to head to the very southwest corner of the map, and this is where the dungeon entrance is located. Now, before going into the dungeon, there's a couple things that I want to mention. One being that Mazokie actually has two quests related to this dungeon. One is Call of Mazokie, as I've already taken here, and the other one is the White Knight's Unexpected Inspection quest. Now, if we look at these in the quest journal, you can see the Call of Mazokie quest. This is a one-time quest, but it does give some of the tokens, which are really important for crafting armor sets. And this other quest, which is repeatable, it's up to you if you want to take it or not. I personally don't think it's worth grabbing, but I did want to mention that it's there. Now, when going into the dungeon, you're going to see here that it requires at least level 190 and at least 3 players to enter. In addition to that, it is 1.9 mil to run in, and the one kind of odd requirement for this dungeon is that you need to have either a Helion armor piece or a Helion armor piece. If you do not have these, you will not be able to enter the dungeon, so you'll need to craft yourself one of these or buy these from another player. Anyway, once you have met all these requirements, you want to get your party together and get ready to head on into this dungeon. Once you and your party members are assembled, you can head on in and get ready to start. One thing to note about this dungeon is that if at any point during the dungeon you die, you do have the ability to re-enter, as long as there isn't a boss currently triggered, so you just kill the boss and then you'll be able to go back in. Now, before we kind of get started, I just want to pull up the dungeon map here. So how the first portion of this dungeon works is you will get a message on the top of the screen, and it will inform you that there are monsters either at the Poison, Lightning, or Curse room, as you can see here. So all you're going to be doing is you're going to be going where the dungeon tells you to go. So if it says Poison, go to Poison. If it says Curse, go to Curse. You will have to complete 2 of these rooms at the start of the dungeon, and after doing so, you will be able to head to the middle area, where you will then be able to summon Mordresh. When I ran this dungeon, it just so happened that my party and I had to do the Curse room, followed by the Poison room. Now, as you can see on the screen here, all that happens during this first portion is each area spawns monsters. Now, in this first section, the only room that's actually semi-dangerous, I would say, is the Curse room, because the monsters here actually hit pretty hard. The Lightning room and the Poison room are honestly kind of a joke, and you shouldn't have too much trouble. Anyway, after you have dispatched the monsters in the first room, it'll tell you which room to go to, so then you go to the second room, and after completing the second room, you will then be able to run to the center area and summon Mordresh. It is important to mention here that only one person needs to run to the center room, as everyone will be teleported to the boss once someone interacts with the NPC that's up there. Mordresh is the first boss of this dungeon, and he can be kind of intimidating if you do not understand his mechanics. The only thing you really need to watch out for is when he points his gun in the sky and you see a warning message. After a little bit, he's going to drop it down and shoot the laser in a counterclockwise direction. Now, you want to try to avoid this, because if you don't, it can do a ton of damage to you. So there's 2 methods to avoid this. One would be use a damage-reducing skill, or if you stand slightly left of where he drops the gun, after he starts attacking, if you move to the right, you will not be hit by his attack. I do also want to mention that this boss drops any of the tokens, so the Helion Courage, Ordeal, or Blessing Token, which are all required for crafting Helion armor. Anyway, guys, after that, I mean, all you really have to do is DPS him down. If it takes you too long, he will use that attack one more time, but otherwise, you should be golden, and you can move on. It is now time to start the second half of the dungeon, and once again, I just want to take a look at that map again, because now we are going to be looking at very similar mechanics to what we saw earlier. So basically, once again, the dungeon is going to call out where you need to go. It's going to be either dark, fire, or ice. The only difference with this second half of the dungeon is there might be some different mechanics at these different rooms that you go to. Basically, there are 3 different things that can happen when you get to one of the statues and you activate them. 1, you kill monsters just like you had to before. 2, it spawns a boss. Each room has like a special boss, and you might have to run into that. Or 3, you run into the Hidnal. Now, the Hidnals are a little special because only 3 of them spawn at a time, and you'll need to kill 10 within an allotted amount of time, and it's very easy if you're just battle supporting to miss those. So what you have to do at that point is you need to just make sure that you're focusing on those Hidnals. And if you want a quicker way to kill them, you can always craft yourself some Favnal Flames, which allow you to kill them faster, as normally you can only do 1 damage to them, but if you have those active, you can do up to 50 at a time, which makes it much easier to kill them. I do also want to mention that in addition to these 3 different things happening at these rooms, sometimes you can get combos. So sometimes what will happen is you'll be killing a bunch of monsters and the Hidnals will spawn. And if you don't complete both missions, you will fail and you will have to redo it. Likewise, you can also have a boss spawn along with the monsters, or you can have a boss spawn with the Hidnals, any combination of those. So you just want to run through these rooms, go where the dungeon tells you to go, complete them, and then run north and head into the final boss area. The final boss of this dungeon is Examiner Undo Mazokie. Now, the first thing I want to say about this boss is that he has a ton of HP, which can be a massive pain if your party doesn't have very good DPS. But luckily, the damage here isn't so high that you're going to get killed a lot of the time, although you do need to have decent monster damage tolerance. Now, there are kind of 2 methods when it comes to killing this guy. One is to just straight DPS him down in the middle of the map, and this works fine if you have high DPS. However, if your DPS is kind of low, it might not be a bad idea to actually lure him to the very back corner of the map. And if you do this, it'll keep him within range, and it'll also stack up all the mobs that spawn really nicely. You and your party can kind of decide which method you want to use, but either of them works just as well. Personally, I generally find myself just killing him in the middle because the party has good enough DPS. Now, in terms of mechanics for this boss, overall, not too hard. He can hit hard if your monster damage tolerance is low. He does have a knockback ability that can be extremely annoying, so range classes can be kind of nice here because you don't have to worry about that. And like I said, after, every little bit, he will spawn some minions to help to help him fight. Generally, I don't focus on these, or I wouldn't recommend focusing on them, as they will kind of run into your AoEs anyway, and you can just focus on the main boss. Now, this boss has 3 drops that are very useful, and those are the Sun Essence, the Monochrome Ore, and the White Knight's Leader Reference, all of which are used for crafting armor, and the Sun Essence is used for crafting the Helion weapons. Sorry, Helion armor and Helion weapons. So you definitely want to be watching out for these drops, because if you're trying to finish your set, it's going to be very important. Anyway, that is pretty much everything when it comes to this boss, so you just want to go ahead, you want to DPS him down. If you're dying, you need to either improve, 1, your HP, or your monster damage tolerance. Once he's DPS down, you will then be able to leave the dungeon. Upon leaving the dungeon, you will be rewarded with 1 of 3 items, and that is any of the tokens. So the same tokens that drop from Mordresh, you have the Helion Courage token, the Helion Ordeal token, and the Helion Blessing token. It is random which one you receive, but you do always receive 1 when you leave the dungeon, so this is just extremely useful to know. These tokens are only obtained by completing the dungeon and from Mordresh in the middle of the dungeon. Now, that is it, guys. That is everything you need to know about completing this dungeon. If you have any questions or suggestions, guys, as always, you can leave them in the comments. And until next time, take care.